Hello everyone, welcome back once again to Dungeon Maker here on the World of Madness server. And I'm still managing somehow to come up with fancy ways of saying that, but anyways. Little bit of progress up here at the top, so we have now got this... I will probably make this look a bit prettier than it is right now, but we've got a dedicated way of adding items just that we randomly pick up like that into the sorting system, so yay for that. We should hear that click as it gets ejected, no doubt, soon. No? Okay, fine by me. But other than that, I have mostly been hanging around here so that we can rebuild our gunpowder supply, which is now back into our second chest here. Almost everything else is still full to bursting, except for here, which... these are the least likely, these are the least common drops. Most of them come from witches. So that makes a fair degree of sense. Up here, we have almost completed these two enchanting tables. I am two bookcases shy, about 4 books. But that's all a matter of murdering more cows. But they do function, so you can use them, pretty much. This one just doesn't go quite as high as that one. But it's fine. I don't actually, come to think of it, know if an enchanting table can only be used by one person at a time, but hey, it's nice. It's nice and convenient if you can work on different levels simultaneously. Like, we can set this one to low, this one to high, you can get whatever, like, enchantments you want. I might put a stack of anvils nearby here as well, just because you tend to get a lot of junk items. And maybe I'll have, like, a sorting system as well that goes maybe somewhere, probably not into there, but to some kind of large storage for junk enchanted items that you're not interested in that other people might be. You know, a nice little, freeman's exchange, if you will. But other than that, I have been mostly smelting up glass, because we're going to need a buttload of stained glass for this whole slime endeavour, and I'm probably going to need to steal quite a lot more than that, bearing in mind that there are 8 of these, and I've only just dug out 2 of them. But I have made a bit of progress over here, so let me just take a quick nap, and we'll go and have a look-see, shall we? Okay, now I just have to be careful, because a few times I've jumped out of here, and it is possible to hit the mainland. Whew, case in point. So I always have to be a little bit careful of that. Oop, missed. Hello, Moose. How you doing? Right. So, this is what it currently looks like, and I kind of started building this before I'd actually nailed down what I wanted it to look like. So we're going to be changing this up a bit as I show things off, but first let's actually look at the things that are actually sticking around, and I also have a piece of Magrilon to stick down here, so yay. So, the first and foremost thing is that I've got these rings. I've got 2 of them so far. I've planned on a 3rd at the top there at ground level, and all of the iron golems are in place. I actually have a few pumpkins left over to probably plant so I can get more, and the Magrilocks are in place, all levels are in place, all of that, and consequently that means this thing now works. Ish. It does not have the actual collection system at the bottom here, but slimes do routinely spawn and then leap to their doom off the side trying to get to the iron golems, so there is that. In fact, I might even... yep, there is a bunch of slime right there. Hurrah, hurrah. Just grab that and get rid of that, so that's now sealed again. Here. But this thing is now happily generating slime, so it's just a matter of me actually adding the wiring and such to collect it. But I have added these lovely circles here, which is good because it gives me some space on the opposite sides. So these sides are occupied by the actual iron golem towers and the actual grinding section, and these sides can be occupied by assistive wiring, such as an item elevator, and all sorts of other things. But I need to actually figure out what this place is going to look like, and I have a decently settled idea for the vast majority of it. But of course, it's in a test world, so I can get actual material calculations. So with that in mind, let's hop over to my creative world, shall we? Catch you in a mo. Right, welcome everybody to a test world of my own. So up there above the clouds we have my test build of the actual cylinder that goes on top of the grinder. There's the grinder itself, or at least a version of it, with the testing I did to get the actual flow control going. And here is what I am currently working on for the slime grinders. Now, I know what you're thinking, and I'm going to point out just fortuitously that it actually happens to be St. Patrick's Day as I'm filming this. But what you're thinking most likely is, that's a lot of green. And you would be right. But I like the green and the sea lanterns and the prismarine as a sort of organic component. It's not human matter, but it is sort of like, it gives a more natural kind of tone to things, which we expect from something like this. Also, it's green as slime is green, and it looks like a lot of green, especially looking down at it, geez. But bear in mind, the vast majority of this is actually going to be covered by, like, stone, so portions of this, especially this side, are not going to be able to be visible straight down. It's going to be mostly just a looks kind of thing. But pretty much this is what I've got in mind. Now, I've tried to incorporate actual rigid structures into this so it looks like an actual physical thing, but I don't have any reason to waste resources up here, so instead I've done something a bit more inventive. And I've designed it almost so it looks like this is meant to retract. Either this section comes up or that section goes down, but this is clearly something that's meant to extend and contract, because we've got this kind of like gear system going here. And these are specifically placed so that they would lock into these if we could actually have 1.5 blocks of height. But the wiring is the main thing that we're going to be looking around at here, so let me just... yes, I've got some stained glass right here. Good, because I'm going to need that to fix the hole I'm about to close here. So, we have our rides going around here, and I had a fancy system in my previous test that actually stopped the minecarts, but it's a little harder to actually get testing for how many items are in these hopper minecarts in this version, at the very least, as far as I found, because if I stick a comparator on them, I get no signal, unless they're on an activator rail. But if they're on an activator rail, then I can't just pulse it to send them flying off again, and if it's right next to the booster rails, then they trigger it by virtue of being on the activator rail, so I have to come up with a new setup for that. So what we've got here is just a line coming straight from the activator rail into this, what do we call that, a monostable circuit, and that goes into this redstone torch, which just controls that. And that just means that every single time that they come through, they get paused for a bit to pick up some items. And it would logically be better if I could only stop them when they actually had items in and stop them until they were empty again, but it's just too much of a hassle. And this thing runs perpetually, doesn't care about anyone nearby. I actually cannot turn it off like the larger grinder in the sky, but that's not a huge concern. This is definitely a low efficiency demand kind of grinder, and it's not going to have nearly the kind of redstone control as the upper one, so it should be a lot more safe for people wandering around. But what happens is the slimes die on top of here. In fact, we can even spawn one in just to demonstrate. So, let's grab ourselves a slime. Let's see, that one. So if we... Oh, we're peaceful. If we spawn you there, those immediately can get a larger one, thank you. The larger one's the ones we're actually interested in for the most part. So, slime eventually keels over, either from falling damage or just from being on the magma blocks. All of the slime. So that then comes through. We'll see all of these vanish rather swiftly. And back on through. I could swear my sounds are turned off, but no, it's just I've got minecarts turned down, because minecarts are kind of quiet. Or kind of loud, rather. So, one of the things that I griped about way back when was that we no longer had a means of making item elevators like the glass inside of Undermine. I am pleased to announce that we now in fact have an easier way of doing it. So consequently I'll get this lovely display. Very nice that, I think. And all the items then hop up to here and go into assorted chests. Most of them I think are going to end up there, or just actually no, just we only got 9 from that particular slime, but that's the benefit of having this be always on. So, for the benefit of those wondering how this works, down on the bottom here we have a dropper. When that dropper receives items from the system, it outputs a signal into this comparator, which then goes into this repeater, which then retracts it, subtracts from the actual comparator and also sends a signal to there. So the whole thing loops until it gets to a point where it can actually send another signal. So it just continues until the actual hopper is, actual dropper rather, is empty. And much like with the previous forms of glass item elevators, it just shoots it into a solid block, in this case the glass, and physics interactions boot it back up to try and push it out, because there's blocks on all sides, so it can't go to the sides. And then it hops into the brief empty space that's up here, into that hopper, and they're just coming into a more central version that goes straight up the middle. So this is the ground level, where we would expect people to actually be coming to visit and secrete their slime boolean from the actual grinders, lest the harvester acquire them for those nefarious purposes. And the tendrils, the legs, are definitely going to be made of lime green as well, I think. But I like all the detail up here. It's minimal detail, but it looks like it does something. It's not necessarily a human understandable technology, but it is something that will actually do something, as near as we can tell. In fact, we can observe it. It looks like it does something, and it is evidently doing something, so that's a nice bit of design. It looks alien, and yet it fits exactly what it's doing and where it is. But the thing that I'm currently puzzling about is how to do the top here, because I don't like to have things that don't have a roof. I had that problem with the cylinder, which is it didn't have a roof even though it was at the top of the world, and rain just came through all of the time. And it seems to be a disproportionate thing that Minecraft servers especially, not Minecraft single players, but Minecraft servers, somehow disproportionately seem to get a lot of rain. And the first thing that I need to know when I'm designing the top here is the design of the leg that goes into them, because they're meant to be a sort of interface. So the obvious thing is that we want to have a sort of sucker design that looks like it attaches to these hoppers, and then this is just sort of a backlog kind of storage. Looks like, doesn't actually have to do that, because there's no way in hell that I am pumping the slime ball products from 8 different grinders all the way to the near build level. Not happening. That would take so many resources, and it would be so tremendously inefficient, and it would lag to heck. So that's not happening. Oh, and yeah, so I've used hoppers there. You can, of course, have fewer hoppers and use a water conveyor if you want to spare yourself some chests and some iron. I don't have to, and I want these to look really nice, so I'm going that way. But, anyways, so if we assume that we have sort of sucker designs here, then let's grab ourselves something that would look decently like one. We could maybe go with the sticky pistons in some areas, as to that they look like it comes in and then it just anchors with the sticky pistons. But let's use a dropper. A dropper is a good idea. Let's see what the observer looks like when it's upside down. What's that like when it's at home? Ooh, that's a nice look, but that looks like more of a kind of... That looks like more of a wiring interface to me, I think. I also don't actually have any slightest clue how to make these, because they are brand new to me. But a hopper dropper looks like that. So we can have it look like an actual sucker if we want. And I think that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's see, these are a 2x2. We'll try and make this a little bit bigger than that. And set block, blah blah blah, stone. Just give me an anchor here. Okay, and we want to... I have tried to vary it up here. There's a lot of green and a lot of cyan in here, or turquoise, however you want to describe the prismarine. But I tried to add in some blocks that are more familiar. I added the rings initially just to try and make it sort of thematically similar to up here. So it looks like these two things are related, because they are. The thing that has that on its back is dropping these down. What's funny is actually that if Even if we did squash this down, I'm pretty sure this would be about the same size as the cylinder. So, oh boy. But let's grab that. These obviously don't have to look as distinguished as the other pieces, so we don't do too much there. Now, trouble is making a circular shape that involves a 2x2 in the middle there is not the easiest of things, but we can endeavour, and we can make this look kind of detailed using our half slabs as well. Okay, so just get rid of that, and let me see, we could use furnaces in our decoration here for spaces where we want to have the look that we've got these suckers, but not actually have them, because they have the same basic bottom texture. So you don't need to worry about it. Okay, and let's have those, just so I mostly have an actual place to plonk these. We could match them up, or we could use them we can match them up, either just have 2 of them or just have all 4 of them, as though these legs can go on any of these, independent of rotation, which seems a bit more likely to me. Okay. And let's drop this down, I think, so that we can sort of blend it in a bit more. And I think there needs to be 4 actual toes, for want of a better description, on these feet. But they need to be at... Like, the obvious thing I could do is just have them be north, south, east, west, which is straightforward and simple and easy to do, but it's really boring, is the problem. And also, if we did have 4 feet that did that way, we wouldn't actually be able to insert the feet, because we'd have to have a big workaround to get into these chests. And, oh yeah, by the way, I could have done these in a big stack, a vertical stack, but I thought a nice delineated thing here looks a lot more like the storage up in the actual grinder. So, once more, it's another point of similarity, and it also looks a bit nicer, even if it does take up a bit more space. Same kind of capacity, but looks nicer, and that's something we need to pay attention to here. Especially since these will be on the ground and it'll be very well lit, and the only thing that spawns in them is slime, so I expect people will be taking cover in here during the storms. But anyways, I digress. Now, we could have observers there to make it look like there's actually some controls. I think what I might do is expand this bit, because I want to have the legs actually, like, connecting with their greenness here. We might put sea lanterns there, that's an idea. We could use slime, there's no idea. We've got all these new terracotta and these concrete blocks. But, yeah. We still have no access to shulker boxes, because we still have to kill the dragon again, which will be fun. For a certain value of fun. But let me see. I do have access to moss stone. We could try using that. I think we could also make it in this version. Prismarine is nice because it changes color over time. It's got a very slow but very distinct kind of shift to it. So you can actually kind of make it out right now, and it also changes in your hand. So these lines are getting more pronounced. The color is gradually losing its turquoise and gaining more of a reddish, purplish kind of tint. I don't know how well you can make that out, but I can notice that it's happening at least. So we want to expand the ring up here a bit. We don't need to change it at all here, but we can disguise certain elements of this just to make things look a bit more octopusy, I guess. Which is a very fun old James Bond movie if you haven't seen it. Alright. Now, it's tempting to actually try and use furnaces as an actual building material here, because they have a good texture on all of their sides, the exception being their exact front, and we can, of course, place them facing straight down, so I have to be a little bit careful, but I think we might be able to at least make some use of them, so let's just plonk those there. And I'm going to have these legs going at diagonals. I could have them be in a spiral shape if I wanted this to be exceptionally strange. I could have them... Well, I'd have to be a little bit careful with spiral shapes, because spirals in Minecraft tend to end up looking like swastikas. But, let's make use of a block I don't actually tend to use very much. Let's take a look at the andesite. So let's just build a little route out here. And let's add some stone brick slab there to just sort of lower it. Not quite what I'd like just yet, but, you know, we're working on it. We can make it however long we like, and I'm going to have to work out how this actually becomes a vertical structure, but I think that part is fairly straightforward-ish. So if I just build another one of these over here, doesn't need to be too long. I think the ideal is that it'll go slightly into the floor here, and we'll have another anchor point. It's just sort of on the level there. But we can work it out as we go. It's just a matter of making this look like something that moves and interacts with something else, basically. It needs to look like a manipulator, is the robotics term. If you think of a robot and it has like a sponge or a suction cup or something, then that portion of its design is called a manipulator. To be a massive and complete nerd. Right. So that's what we'd be looking at. That's the kind of thing that if we saw 8 of these on the ground, we would suspect they're probably like a foot, and you can even walk under these a little bit as well. We might even have 2 of these aren't actually going to be inside of these grinder pods, so maybe I'll have something like one of these planted actually in the ground, and I can throw up some coarse dirt around some grass and whatnot and have it look like this is actually like dug through a bit. So we just have something... We're in a desert biome, so this looks a bit strange here, but just like do something like that, and maybe have some dirt under there at a lower point. It would turn into grass eventually, but you know, deal, that kind of thing. And maybe a little over here. This is all just like decor and ideas here, but you know, the things that make it look like a part of the environment are important. But let's just get rid of that for now, so we can keep building this, because I'm probably going to change my mind several times before I get to an actual idea. But let me see, how would this convert to a vertical? Assuming that we can even actually go full vertical. If we had it be a curved interface rather than a straight down, pick it up, that kind of thing. If we actually like came down like a arcade kind of grabber game with its curved points, that might be even better. But that would be even harder to render in Minecraft, I'm afraid. And let's just have that there as well, just to give it a bit more beef. There. I don't quite like that as much. I do think there should be something on the underside here, but for now I'm going to leave that as is. But let me know in the comments what you think. This episode's going a little bit long already, so I shall leave you all as I go and attempt to get at least the grinder section done up to the roof. And hope you've all enjoyed. I'll catch you all next time.